This is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 407 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, we're going to be jumping into how to use big thinking to level up your business with Andrea Liebross. I'm super excited about this conversation. We really dive into the difference between big thinking and small thinking and how you can start to apply it to your business with actual strategy and steps to move forward. Before we jump in, I want to make sure that if you haven't already taken advantage of the promotion that we are offering for insiders, which is 40% off, that you do so. We are giving you weekly strategy sessions, all done live via Zoom, as well as a monthly group coaching call where you can get the accountability and the steps that you need to take in order to move your business forward. All right, let's dive into this episode. Hi, Andrea. How are you? Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Jenny. How are you? I'm so happy to be here.
I am excited to have this conversation about how to use big thinking to level up your business. But before we jump into that, will you actually introduce yourself and your business to my listeners?
Sure. So my name's Andrea Liebross, and I work with female entrepreneurs to help them think bigger about their businesses so that they can really create more freedom of time and money and energy that they crave and desire. Probably part of the reason they got into owning their own business in the first place. So we need to get back to that place.
Absolutely. So let's kind of just jump right in. When you say big thinking, what exactly is big thinking? Could you define it for us?
Yeah. So someone actually just messaged me earlier today and said, is it the same thing as manifesting? And yes and no. This is how I'm going to give you my definition of big thinking. So big thinking is the thinking that comes from what I call future you. So this is the you a year from now, 3 years from now, 5, 10 years from now, who has accomplished or is living the life that you want to live, who has done all the things, so to speak. And if you go and talk to that future you and ask them what you should be doing today, that's big thinking. Because if you kind of have your eye on the prize, so to speak, or believe that you can be that future you, then the actions you're going to take are going to come, they're going to come to you. It's not as if you have to really sit down and struggle to figure out what's next. If you're doing big thinking, what's next will come. So if you think about it, like past you, people refer to the past all the time. Well, I just know based on the past, this is what's going to happen, or this isn't what's going to happen, or this is what I tend to do, or what I don't tend to do. And if we stay just relying on the past, we're never going to create what we want to create, because the past truly is the past. It's a bunch of thoughts about what happened in the past, honestly. And I say the past can be a teacher, but it's not a fortune teller. Okay, it is not going to tell you what's going to happen in the future. And if we kind of ask our present day selves, okay, what should we do? Well, present day self hasn't done or isn't at the place where you probably want to be, where that future you is. So even present day you doesn't necessarily know what it should be doing, which I hear all day long on coaching calls. I just don't know what to do next, right? So if you can access that future you, then in the thinking of the future you, then doing what you need to do today is going to come actually pretty easily. So big thinking does involve some belief. And if you look up the definition of manifesting, the word believes in there. So yes, it involves some belief, but it also then trickles down into what are the actions I need to take today? How should I be spending my most valuable resources of time, money, energy, and relationships? What do I need to do? So that's kind of big thinking in a nutshell.
Okay, which totally makes sense. And I think when we think of future you also normally will have some level of confidence, right? Because they've done the things. So it's almost you're infiltrating that confidence of not necessarily having done yet, but adding it to what you want to do to continue on the next steps.
Yes, exactly. So confidence is really the willingness to feel any feeling. Okay. That's how I define confidence. And uh, the five most important tenets of big thinking align with this acronym I've created off of the word trust. So TRUST. So if we jump right to the R line stands for real problem. And big thinkers know that the real problem is no problem at all. It's just the fact that you don't want to feel a negative feeling, right? Or you don't want to feel inadequate or not enough or scared. And so confidence really is the ability to be okay with feeling those things as you're working through something. So I always like to say the real problem, there is no real problem. It's just the fact that you don't want to feel something negative.
It's funny because I often will tell clients, you're not growing unless you're feeling uncomfortable, because that
Yes.
uncomfortable feeling is the growth. It's what you're talking about. It's
Right.
that scared feeling of never having done something before and feeling uncomfortable with it. But that is where the growth actually happens.
Yes, exactly. That is everything you ever wanted is on the other side of uncomfortable.
Yes. So good. So,
Yes.
how does big thinking differ from small thinking?
So small thinking is really going back to that past person of yours. That's usually the small thinking. It's also not being willing to get out of the safety zone. So there's something called the motivational triad, and our brains function on this motivational triad. We want everything to be easy, efficient, and comfortable. Small thinking, it's easy, it's efficient, it's comfortable. Doing the same thing that you've been doing, even if you don't like doing it, or even if you don't think it's the right thing, it is easy because you've already done it before. It is comfy because you're used to it. So that's what small thinking is. I like to also use the concept of happiness set point, which means that we are all kind of like, think about weight. Okay. So we've all tried to lose weight. I don't think anyone's tried to gain weight, but you might have tried to gain weight. But anyway, with weight, you go on a vacation and you gain weight. You're really sick and you might lose weight. But then a week or so later, it's all back to the same place. It's right. Like our body's happiness set point. It's where our body just likes to hang out, whether we like it or not. And the same thing goes with our thinking, where some of us just like to live in chaos. We like overwhelm. It's what we're used, because it's what we're used to. Right. So if you've ever had the experience of, like, all of a sudden nothing's happening in your household and you have a free day and you don't know what to do with yourself, in a sense, we've all kind of experienced that, although usually women quickly find something to do. But anyway, that small thinking is really just staying at that set point and not being willing or looking to adjust it.
Okay. I
So,
love that definition
yeah.
of it. Excellent. All right. So obviously, if we want to grow our businesses, big thinking has to become part of what we are doing. So how do
Yes.
you become a big thinker?
So to become a big thinker, you've got to do 5 things. We'll go back to that acronym, the TRUST acronym. So number 1, T, you need to recognize that you have thought options. Okay. You have options on how you want to think about anything. You could decide that an 80 sunny degree sunny day is the best kind of day ever, and you're going to be outside all day long. Or you could say, yeah, not so fun because I have to be inside all day and work. So 80-degree day, 2 different thoughts. You have thought options. Okay. So big thinkers know that, and they use thought options as leverage to get them where they want to go. That's T. R, we talked a little bit about real problem. The real problem is just that you don't want to feel a negative feeling. U in trust stands for unknown or uncertainty, embracing the unknown or embracing uncertainty. So if you're going to think big, you've got to be okay not knowing exactly what's going to happen. And a great example of this is sometimes when I'm on a consult call with a prospective client, I ask a bunch of questions, we chat, we decide, yes, we're a good match. Okay. So are we going to move forward? Yeah, I think so. But I don't make any quick decisions. I do have to think about things. I just want a day or two to think about this. Well, clearly I like thinking because the title of my book is She Thinks Big. So that's okay. But when I ask permission to put my coach hat on, and they always say yes, I'm like, okay, with my coach hat on, what exactly are you thinking about in these next 24 hours before you say yes or no? No one really has a great answer to that. No, they don't have such great answers. What they're thinking about is this going to, and I'm putting it in air quotes, going to work? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is this exactly what I need? What if it's not? Okay. And all of these questions are about the unknown because we don't know any of the answers to that. I mean, I can tell you that I, with my hardest of hearts, believe that it will help you, but I don't know. Okay. So big thinkers are willing to take that risk and embrace the unknown or the uncertainty. So that's the third thing that big thinkers do. Fourth, S in trust. S stands for securing support. Okay. Now, if I ask someone usually who supports you, okay, and I leave it very open ended, number one answer I get is family. My family is super duper supportive of me. And whatever that looks like, financially, emotionally, whatever. Okay, good. I'm glad you have a supportive family. I'm happy for you. But what I'm talking about, big thinkers, they have support in the sense that they've got someone or something that's going to tell them what they can't see themselves, or that's going to tell them, hey, have you considered this option? Or so securing support outside of your family is key because inside your family, their job is to love you. Like their job isn't to really necessarily push you or tell you the hard things. Hey, it might inconvenience them in the end anyway, right? So securing support, all big thing. I don't know any big thinker out there who doesn't have some sort of outside their family support in the form of a coach, a mentor, a board of directors, whatever it is. So that's the fourth thing. And then the fifth, last T in trust stands for take action. Okay, so if you're going to be a big thinker, what do you need to do? You need to take action. And I call it massive action, not passive action. So passive action is what our brain wants to do because it's comfortable, it's efficient, and it's easy. Passive action is listening to a podcast. Now, believe me, I love podcasts because I have one of my own too. Okay. Or reading a book, love books, but those are forms of passive action. Googling, passive. So it's not like you're not doing anything. You are doing something, but is it really the stuff that's going to move the needle? Big thinkers do take massive action alongside the passive, but they're willing to take that massive action, which should be somewhat probably risky, a little exciting, right? And that their future you is actually fueling. So T stands for thought options, R, real problem, U, embrace uncertainty, S, secure support, and T, take action.
I love it. The take action makes me think of, I hear from a lot of clients that they're in that research phase, right? The
Yeah.
Googling, the podcast,
Yeah.
listening to books. But it's not till they take the leap and do the testing of it and seeing if
Right.
the policies, the strategies, the things that they are trying to put into action or are researching are actually going to move the needle on the business. So I love that T that you're talking about. It's just so important as part of it.
Hey there, guys. My name is Melanie from Mostly Under Control, and I am a member of Jenny's Influencer Entrepreneurs Insiders membership. I've been a part of it since 2017, and over these 6 years, I've taken full advantage of the weekly trainings that Jenny offers and the monthly group coaching. The group coaching is probably my favorite part of the membership. Jenny has taught me so many things for my business. She helped me niche down and write and teach about what I wanted so that I wouldn't burn out. In addition to what she teaches, the networking I've done with other members has been invaluable. I recommend her membership to all of my online business owner friends because it is worth every single penny.
Yeah, I like to think of what you just described as like a science experiment. And I always say, like, let's pretend this is a sixth grade science experiment. Let's just test that out. Let's try it. Let's see what happens over X number of days or within this time, you've got to give it some parameters. And then we'll decide if it's not working or working. You could be Googling from now until the end of time to try to figure out if this is going to work for you and your business. And no one on Google, there's no Googles. The Googles do not know because they are not you and they are not your business or client.
Yes, your voice, your positioning all come into play because what works for one person will not work for necessarily
Correct.
for another. So good. So why is big thinking non-negotiable if we want to continue to grow our businesses and ourselves?
Well, I think it's non-negotiable for a couple reasons. If we're going to grow our businesses or ourselves, we have to go into what I call a committed state, extraordinarily committed. And when you're extraordinarily committed, then you're going to create extraordinary results. And big thinkers can differentiate between whether or not they're just interested in something versus committed. So I think a lot of times when we stay in that small kind of thinking, we're in that just interested phase. For example, someone I was coaching this morning, got off a call. She wants to offer a new product. And right now she's like, I don't know. I just really need to just write this up and get this offer out there and figure out how I'm going to frame it. And like, why haven't we done this already? Because we've been talking about it for a while. And if we tease that all apart, we discover that she's kind of just interested in putting the new offer out there, but she's not committed. Her brain hasn't said, yes, I'm all in yet. So there's so many things out there that we as humans are just interested in. Like, you're interested in working out 5 days a week, but have you committed to it? Are you taking the action to make it happen? Right? Are you figuring out what that's going to look like? So it's non-negotiable in the sense that big thinkers have to commit, right? And not just be just interested. And if you're in that just interested, you're probably still staying safe. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't really know anyone that would say, I never took a risk. They've reached a certain level. They've gotten to where they want to go, and everybody defines success differently. But they did do some big thinking. They did take some risks. They did trust, TRUST, themselves as they worked towards this goal or fulfilling the dream.
Yes. And it kind of sounds like you're talking about with that consistency and the constant action, almost a habit. So what happens when you make the shift and big thinking actually becomes a habit?
So when big thinking becomes a habit, it means that habits are tied to something. So there's routines, there's habits. They're two different things. There's actually rituals too. Routines, rituals, and habits. I talk about all three of them together. So, but when it's a habit, it's you associate it with something. Like, it's a habit when you wake up to brush your teeth. Well, if big thinking can become a habit, then it's a habit as it's associated with your business growth. Like, you do big thinking when you want to grow. If you don't want to grow, then you stay in the small thinking, right? So it has to be tied to something. And it also has to have some reward. Like, habits, usually, we're human, we like to have some reward in it, whether it's clean teeth and a mouth that tastes good, or you want to see yourself in a different place. You want to develop yourself as a thought leader. You want to help more people out there with your services. Whatever it is, it's got to have some sort of reward associated with it as well.
Love that. Yeah, I think for me as someone, I've always been very routine oriented. Always think that if something can become part of my routine, it's just much easier to keep. It's much easier to get done. You're going to be more productive in doing the strategies, the things that you're putting into place in order to move forward.
Yes. I offer this thing called Vision into Action Intensive. Okay. So it's kind of like a VIP day or a day when we create a business plan. And one of the things that I always leave that call with is, okay, looking at this has to become a habit. They leave with a tangible document. So you need to look at this at least once a quarter, at least, if not once a month or week, right? It's not something that gets shoved in the drawer. It has to be a habit. This framework that we've set out has to be, you have to get in the habit of reevaluating it, tweaking it, refreshing it and moving forward on a regular basis. Because if you don't, then you kind of get into what I call a low value cycle, which is another thing that small thinkers do, not big thinkers. Big thinkers have high value cycles, meaning, go back to the science experiment. If you set out to test something, okay, let's pretend you're going to decide that you're only going to be on Instagram, no other social media. Let's pretend, okay? So let's test that out. And think of a clock. So at the top of the clock, 12. Okay, only doing Instagram. When we get to 15 minutes, you evaluate and you realize, well, this isn't working. You know what? My number of inquiries has gone down, whatever it is. Low value cycle, small thinkers will then all of a sudden just toss that out the window, that theory, that experiment. Like, that didn't work, back to the drawing board. But if you're in a high value cycle or you're doing some big thinking, you might just tweak it and continue on. Meaning, well, I was only posting in stories. I wasn't doing any reels or any static graphic posts. Okay, so let's try that. Let's see what happens. And then you continue on in the clock. You get to 6. Okay, 6. Let's reevaluate. Oh, now actually maybe I'm getting some traction. What happens if I post more often? You get to 9. Assess. Nope, that didn't work. What happens if I post less often, right? So the high value cycle goes all the way around the clock. Small value just gets to 15 minutes and tosses it out and starts again, and which is a total waste of time, in my opinion.
Yes. Absolutely. I love that you're saying to reevaluate, though, because I think that that's something, especially as female business owners, I've noticed that we're kind of afraid of numbers. That's not where we like to be. We want to create content. We want to be creative, but we don't necessarily want to look at the numbers. And I think sometimes it's because we don't know what numbers to actually look at, to use data to provide actual thought strategies that are going to continue to move us forward.
Right.
So when we're looking at that, trying to figure out what data points are going to be beneficial for what we are measuring, rather than trying to connect it to, oh, that didn't work. Well, why didn't it work? Did you not get engagement? Did you not get comments? Did you not get followers?
Right.
It's often that people don't know what they are connecting that action to. And if you don't know that, it's not going to work.
It's not, right? You've got to have that reevaluate. I call it hone a little, like, let's hone this in. Yeah.
So how are your results different in your business and life with big thinking?
Well, number one, I think it becomes a lot more fun. And I mean, I don't know, but I'm in the business of having fun. So I always say, how can we make things simple, doable, and fun? So it does 100% become more fun because you're trying more things. It actually becomes a little simpler too, because you've eliminated some of the decision drama. Okay. You're just going to go for it. And decision drama, I like to say too, that's like creates business lag. So you don't really stay in that decision drama for too long. And then doable. Well, doable, you could argue one way or the other. What is doable? Is this doable? Is it not doable? You don't know until you try. Right? You don't know until you try. So big thinking does make your life and business a lot simpler. It makes it doable in the sense that you're doing things and figuring out if they're doable or not. And it does make it fun.
Yes. And that fun also is that joy that I think many of us started the idea of our business with. We wanted more joy in our life, and we saw the business opportunity as a way to bring that. So being able to have that fun is key.
It is. It's so fun.
So tell me about your She Thinks Big toolkit that you're actually offering. We're going to link to that in the show notes so that all of our listeners can go and grab it. But tell us a little bit about what we can learn with that.
So the toolkit is a kind of an accompanying set of documents that go with the book She Thinks Big, and you can find that book on Amazon or any of your favorite booksellers. But what it does is it really dives deeper into some of the concepts that are in the book. Things like interested versus committed. Things like figuring out what you should be delegating and what you should be doing. So there's 5 or 6 different parts to it, and each of those is a separate tool, and they really are all tools that are going to help you think bigger. So
we are going to make sure that that is linked. And if you are listening and you want to send me a DM on Instagram, you all can send me a DM and I'll send you a link directly to you. It's just at Jenny_Melrose. Andrea, I appreciate you so much for taking the time to speak with me and share your knowledge with my audience.
thanks for having me.
Of course. All right. Well, there you have it. I hope that you are starting to think about how you can start to look at your business and utilize big thinking in order to move and level up your business. I want you to make sure that you go and grab that toolkit that Andrea is offering as well. It is again linked in the show notes. And if you haven't already left a rating and review, I would so appreciate it if you took the time to do it. Just scroll down in your podcasting app, hit the rating, and then do a quick review letting me know what your biggest takeaway is from the podcast. All right, guys, until next time, I will see you all then.